Greetings, everyone. I am Nanette Saylor. This is another episode of the Create.Play.Live podcast, where we are having conversations about curiosity, creativity, and connections, and how that fuels our lives and colors it in interesting ways. So today I am here with my guest, Dawn Meyer. And I am excited to share with you because not only does she know a little bit about fuel, but she also embraces color in a big way. So Dawn is a former rocket scientist, a real live rocket scientist. Now you can say you've met one. And she uses that energy in a new way to infuse her work now in the world as a healer in the body of work known as Access Consciousness, where she helps people go to places they didn't know they could go and allow us and teach us to do that with ease and with joy and in ways that are really very magical. So I want to introduce you to Dawn, give her a minute to say hello, and then we're going to have a conversation about some fun questions and ways that we see the world, that she sees the world. And my hope for you is that you'll take away some new inspiration and really some things to consider the way you see the world in new ways as a result of this creative conversation. So welcome, Dawn. So glad you're here.
Thank you, Nanette, for inviting me. I'm so grateful to be on your podcast, and I look forward to discussing creativity with you.
Yeah. So I think it's really fun that you use the color purple a lot. Right? I think
Yes.
your website is IamPurpleDawn.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Where did that come from?
Well, as a little kid, I loved purple. I used to have part of the decorations in my bedroom as purple roses on the wall and on the curtains and that sort of thing. And I always embraced the color purple. And now for a while, I went into yellow, but I came back.
Okay.
and,
Strayed a little bit.
just strayed a little bit off of purple, and then I came back to it, and I've come back to it in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to be something that I really connect with. And I realize purple has all sorts of different meanings in royalty, in spirituality, in your chakras. But it really seems to be something that resonates with me in a way that I can express creativity, in that I love the way purple looks and brings out the energy of people and of objects. So I just love purple. And yes, that is my website. That the name of my company is Purple Dawn. And that came about because people started calling me Purple Dawn. And when I was looking to create a new email address, my husband said, well, just use Purple Dawn. That's what everybody calls you.
Right.
I said, well, of course.
Yeah.
So then when my accountant said, well, what do you want to call your company? I said, Purple Dawn, of course.
Yes. Yeah. And how fun is that, right? And just, from a simple little moniker that people started to use in just a playful way, here you have this identity, right? That is, and I love that the way that you described it as being not just what we read in the textbooks about purple is, this and this and this relative to spirituality and chakras and everything else, but that you feel it. You feel this connection and you feel it for other people when you work with them. So yeah. So talk to me about this transition from rocket scientist to energy healer and how that showed up in your life. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
Well, as a little kid, I always had two things I wanted to be. I wanted to be the first woman to walk on the moon,
Ah.
or I wanted to be someone who could heal other people with their hands the way I'd seen in some sci-fi movies.
Ah.
And so then I didn't make it as an astronaut, but I worked on the space shuttle program as a software engineer for 28 years, because I started when I was like 2, you know.
Yes.
And then as that was drawing to a close, I had been studying all along the energy healing techniques because they really fascinated me. And so
Mm.
when it came time to end the space shuttle program, it was like, well, what does the universe have next for me? And the energy healing thing was there. And I realized
Yeah.
that was something that could really feed my soul, because it would allow me to help other people as well as myself to really start getting in touch with what else was possible for them.
Yeah. 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 I'm having a visual of an old sci-fi movie and people healing with hands. Can you
Exactly.
remember one of the movies that you watched where that was possible?
Well, I think that one of them was an Outer Limits episode or something like
Ah.
that that I had seen, because in it, the people, they had had a big war and the technology was gone. And so their form of healing had to be something that did not rely on technology. So they went
Ah.
to within, which is where everything is anyway. It's all within.
Yes.
So when you start looking at, well, what can I use that would create my life? It's turn within and see what's within you that you can bring out.
Isn't that amazing that back then, many years ago, that here you were as a small child watching a movie that gave attention to the idea that when technology goes away, there's this thing we have inside.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by that because it's clear that in the period in between, there were certainly a number of years where we totally forgot that, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
so immersed in the potential of technology that we really weren't thinking at all about anything else. And I don't know about you, but it feels to me now like we're starting to come to the other side of that awareness and start to see that there is a consciousness and a level of understanding that doesn't require the technology and that
Mm-hmm.
is, my belief is, more powerful than we in our lifetimes will ever know, right? So,
Right.
yeah, very cool. I'll have to
Yeah.
go look for some old Outer Limits on YouTube. We'll have to add that to our list of resources. See if we
Yeah.
can find that
An
episode
episode.
where
Yeah.
where everybody was brought to this place of understanding that they had to leave or it was forced that the technology went away and now we're back to inner work. Love
Yeah.
that. So that's the perfect segue to your connection to Access Consciousness. And I have been introduced to Access, and I was delivering bars the other day and really enjoying that. Set up in a local wellness center here, and I had a couple people come in to receive their bar sessions, and boy, that felt really good. So,
Mm-hmm.
share with our listeners a little bit about what Access Consciousness is, and I think most interesting to me is how you found your way there. I know what it was that did it for me, and but I'm curious, how did that intersection show up in your life so that you could begin down this path?
Okay. Well, one thing I wanted to mention about how I have both worlds is that with the scientific world, it is looking at other possibilities that exist that a lot of people don't see.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so to me, that's not a big stretch to have both in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And with the access stuff, what had had occurred was when the space program ended the shuttle program ended, the space program goes on, but the shuttle program ended, I took about a month of meditating and asking the universe, well, what's next? What's my next step? What would you like me to do to be the biggest contribution to myself and the world? And I kept saying, I don't want to be a massage therapist. So what happened was, of
Mm.
course, I ended up being a massage therapist. It's like, well, sure,
Speak
of
it,
course, that's it.
speak
And
it,
there
and it
it is.
is. Yes.
And so, yes, I enrolled to become a massage therapist because I wanted to be able to touch people to heal them. So I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to do Reiki and reflexology. And then what happened was during my massage classes, one of the guys there took a bars class, an access consciousness bars class. And when he started talking about it, he hadn't even finished explaining what it was. And all the little bells and whistles went off in my head that said, you got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up taking a class in it and learning to do it and teach it, and just kept going on with it to where now I'm a certified facilitator. So I teach it and other access consciousness concepts. And access consciousness is a whole suite of tools that involves the bars, but it involves so much more. And we're going to
Yeah.
have a cat walk through here. Hang on. Cat, this is Chewy. Chewy, say hi.
Hi, Chewy. And I
Sorry
bet
about that.
Chewy inspires you every once in a while too.
He and my other kitties, we were doing bar sessions yesterday at my house with some
Mm-hmm.
friends. And yes, they came to help.
Yes.
As only a cat can. But
Oh,
anyway,
that's fun.
so the access concepts have a lot to do with looking for the other possibilities in your life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what can really show up when you allow yourself to realize that there are so many other possibilities that you frequently don't even notice,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're stuck on this either or thing in life where we have this choice or this choice. Because how many
Right.
times as a little kid did your parents say, okay, you've got to choose this or this, that's it? And you get
Mm-hmm.
stuck in that, well, that's all I have available to me. And really it's not. You have so much more available to you. So when we're talking about uh, the access healing and the access coaching that I do, and that's just one of the things that I use is the access stuff. It's about finding those other possibilities and allowing yourself to be open to them.
Yeah.
Because if you close yourself down to it, you don't even notice it. You only see
Right.
what you're expecting to find.
Yes, I love that. You only see what you're expecting to find. That, for me, this idea of the possibilities, that's where my intersection happened, because I began as a creativity coach with the awareness and understanding that creative activities invite us to see new possibilities. So I began calling myself a possibility partner years before I'd ever heard about access consciousness. So when I had the awareness of access consciousness, it, like you, the light bulb went on right away. I was like, oh, well, this is perfectly aligned with how it is that I see the world, that there is so much more for us to explore when we let the boundaries go and begin to consider that it's not just black or white, that there are 64 colors in the Crayola crayon box, or
Or
whatever,
the
however it's,
128, because
yeah,
I always
right,
went for the big
exactly.
box.
Yeah, yeah, and more coming every year too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've never known anybody who named a crayon. Have you?
No, I haven't. I thought about doing one. I wanted,
Yeah.
of course, a purple one.
Yes.
And Purple Possibilities would be a great crayon.
Ah, well, you know
So,
what? I should look it up after this call. I'm going to look up how it is that you submit, because I know they put the call out on a regular basis for
mhm.
people to submit new names. And we should find out. We'll have to
Yes, we
post that for
should.
the group. So, for everybody listening, if you've ever had the dream of naming a crayon, keep your eyes on this, because I'll find out how we do that. That's
That'd be
keeping the
great.
possibilities alive,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Because it's all about, the universe has this huge buffet of possibilities for you, and you tend to think there's only, that little tiny side table that has a couple of dishes on it, instead of realizing you could choose from the entire buffet
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just have to start asking the universe to show it to you, and allow yourself to realize that they exist.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting. Allow yourself to realize that these other choices exist, and that's fun to take us to that imaginary place of all that could be. And isn't it? I mean, that is what comes to mind for me is the intersection now, the circle back to the science, right? And before we turned the recording on, you and I were talking about Elon Musk and the rockets, and this. I continue to be fascinated by the idea that many, many, many years ago, people were imagining these possibilities, and lots of folks thought that they were crazy. And look, here we are. And there are rockets that are doing things that nobody ever thought possible. So we don't have to look very far to see these examples of how it actually can be true and how it actually can be possible in our lives. So, interesting. So what are you creating these days?
I'm creating, well, this week and
Mm-hmm.
next week, I'm creating a gratitude class
Ah,
because I have my Gratitude for Life journal that came out at Christmas. And
yes.
now I'm creating a 21-day class to go with that. And
Fantastic.
I started it off with a Valentine's Day uh,
Mm,
class, well, not class, but a call, talking
sure.
about having gratitude for you at Valentine's Day, instead of
Yeah,
having all of the judgment that we tend to have, which is, are you in the right relationship? Do you have a relationship? Are you doing Valentine's Day right? All of
yeah.
those things. And it was letting go of some of that. And
Beautiful.
so then building on that gratitude and the power of gratitude is where I'm going with this class, so that we can really dive into what it can create for you. And one of the ladies that was on my class on Valentine's Day, I had done a little bit. I said, to realize that if you have gratitude for what you have, it doesn't mean that you don't want more.
Right.
you
Yeah.
can you can have this, and I would still like this. And I use
Mhm.
the analogy that when you sit down to dinner, you have your salad and you're grateful that you had the salad, and I would like to have the first course, the
And the
main
dessert.
the main course. Yeah, and that's what I said. Then have gratitude for the main course, and I would like to have dessert, or and I would like to have a second helping. So it's
Yes.
the power of the word "and" in your life, to realize that, like we talked about, it's not an either or, this or that proposition, that just because you're grateful for what you have doesn't mean that you're willing to just stop there.
Yeah.
It means that you can have that and whatever else you would like to have.
Yeah.
All those other possibilities, to just keep going there, and you're grateful for this and what's next.
Yeah.
I'm grateful I graduated high school and I wanted to go on to college. All of
Yes.
those sort of things, the word "and" is hugely powerful in your life, to realize that there's so much more you can have. You can
Yeah.
just add and keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I've taken to the habit of doing my best to swap but for
Hmm.
and in
Exactly.
my conversations. So whenever I catch myself saying this and this and this, but da 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 da, I'll stop for a minute as it starts to come out. I literally swallow the words and then say, and this
Hmm.
next thing is
Yeah,
possible, whatever
because
that looks like.
but tends to kill the energy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
everything that you set up to but, you just canceled that out when you said the word but. Instead of
Yeah.
saying I've done this, and that, and I would like to do this.
Yeah.
Or, and even though it didn't show up exactly the way I wanted to, now we can create this.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you pointed that out about the energy, because I can physically feel it in my body that it's a different response when I stop the but from coming forward and I switch the word. The but would have taken me to all the why I can'ts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the and takes me to all the what else can I create, which
Mm-hmm.
is the space I would much rather play in. So tell me about, before we jump, share for the listeners where they can find your gratitude journal, because I love this idea. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of journaling. I am a particular fan of gratitude journaling. So where is it that we could find your gratitude journal?
So if you go to my website, iampurpledawn.com/gratitude,
Ah,
that's the book.
there you go.
And it's available on Amazon. You can get a hard copy, well, not hard copy, but paperback copy,
A real live that you
a
can
real
touch
live
copy.
book, or you can get the Kindle. And
Okay.
the book itself has a collection of my photographs that I've taken,
Mm,
and there's one for every week because it's a year-long journal. And the nice
nice.
part about it is that you can start it at any time.
Mm,
It has the 7 days of the week with a prompt for every day of what area of your life to look at to see where you're grateful there. Because a
beautiful.
lot of times we get stuck in thinking that only the big things are worth being grateful for,
Mm,
but it's all those little tiny things
yeah.
that really make up your life, and they really contribute to your life and shifting your energy. Because what made you smile today?
Yeah. So
What
I love that
what made you
prompt. What
laugh?
what makes me smile? So what made
Yeah.
you smile today, Dawn?
Well, my husband um, stayed home today, well, this morning, because he only had to work half a day today. So he said, rather than, hang on, had to put the cat down, rather than getting up and going into work at normal time and then coming home really early, he said, well, how about if we go to breakfast this morning? So we
Ah,
went to the breakfast over. I live in Cape Canaveral and we live just down the street from the port. So we went to breakfast at the port and there were dolphins there. There were
oh,
dozens and dozens of pelicans and seagulls flying around and diving in the water and just all sorts of really beautiful things. And it was a gorgeous morning. The sun was out and it was just so much fun to sit there and just watch all of that. So that
yeah.
really made me smile this morning.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I was watching yesterday a video about the power of being out in nature. This particular one was about earthing and grounding, the
Mm-hmm.
concept of putting our skin on the earth, our bare feet, and what that does because of the energy of the earth and how healing it can be. And I was reminded how vital it is for me to be out in nature and to observe with childlike eyes. And I know that that's true for you too. And I just want to acknowledge, as I was prepping for this call, I um, ended up on your Facebook page and saw that beautiful hummingbird picture that you took.
Oh.
Tell us about that. That's delightful and really awesome.
Well, when I go to get my recertification for Access every year, the class that I choose is in Costa Rica because you
Ooh.
can go to Costa Rica, Australia, or Italy. And Costa Rica is easier. For me, it's
Yes.
only a 3 hour
Yes.
flight. And the resort that we stay at has all of these hummingbirds.
Mm,
And this year, now the picture you were looking at, I took last year.
mhm.
So I get up every morning when the sun comes up and I go out and I start taking pictures of the birds and mostly of the hummingbirds. And then there's a volcano and I take pictures of the volcano and all of that. And this year in my room, every morning I would open the curtains and there's a big sliding glass door that faces the volcano so that you have a nice view of the volcano and the flowers and stuff between you and the next level of the resort because it kind of goes down a hill. And every morning this little hummingbird came up and darted across my sliding glass door and then went and sat in the bushes. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, the last day that I was there, he sat there long enough for me to get my camera, and I got some amazing pictures of him just
Mm.
sitting there
Yeah, and
looking
they don't do
around.
that much.
No, they tend to move around a lot
Yes.
and very quickly. But pretty much every year that I have gone, they will sit outside my door
Nice.
and let me take their picture.
Yes.
And I just loved that. That was the
Yeah.
one that I have posted there. A lot of times they would sit right in front of me at the restaurant because the restaurant is an outdoor restaurant with just a
Yeah.
roof. And they would sit there and I would put my camera on the railing and just
Mm.
take their pictures.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and it's nice to be able to have that platform, isn't it, to hold the camera steady
hmm
because they move so
They move
fast.
so quickly.
Well,
But I have people said, well, you have such a connection to them because they show up for
yeah,
you. And the other
right.
animals, like the monkey showed up for me and
Mm-hmm.
several other big birds and this huge toad hopped on my porch one day and all these animals because I'll get up in the morning and I'll say who would like to come out and have their picture taken today
And
and see who shows up.
isn't that a beautiful thing? I love that. So for all you photographers out there, remember that when you step out to begin to take photos, if you're in the space of taking photos of objects that are movable, invite them to come play. I love that. Who would like to come have your picture taken today? It's
hmm
perfect. It's perfect. And, it's amazing what shows up. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, what would you say is, um, what would you say is the biggest influence that opening up to possibility, which means inviting in these creative experiences? It means that you're, to me, and please correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it means to me that we are stepping into the power of our ability to create the experience that we want to have, and to invite the universe to co-create with us. What would you say is the how does your life, what are the biggest indicators of your life as it is now, the differences between your life as it is now and your life before you stepped into this fully, before you really had the awareness of this? How is there anything, if you were to share one thing with people who aren't yet true believers, if you will, that this is possible, what would you say to them about the difference and why this is so important?
Well, I would say a lot of it has to do with my focus.
Mm,
When I was before I really stepped into all of this, I mean, I've always had it on some level,
yeah,
but before I
yeah.
really stepped into this, it was a lot of times focused on the negative things.
Mm-hmm.
It was, this is going wrong and this is going wrong and this is bad and this is bad. And I do that. I'm not saying I still don't do that sometimes because we all do, but
We've been well trained.
we've been very well trained, very well trained. And if you watch television, it teaches you that,
Yeah.
do it. but,
Yes.
but it's much more of a focus on the things that are good, the
Yeah.
things that are contributing to my life, the things that even if they don't appear good on the surface, have an element that they're teaching me that helps me to change something else in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. This week, my microwave died.
Yeah.
Now, some people would look at that as a bad thing, but there were several good things that came out of that. One, it was a 14-year-old microwave, so I get a brand new microwave.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one was the day that the microwave broke, it started coming on all by itself.
Oh.
But we happened to be in the room when it did it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it came on in the middle of the night and started running, or while we weren't home and started running,
Mm-hmm.
because something could have gone seriously wrong at
Oh,
that
yeah,
point.
absolutely.
So that was a blessing there. That was a good thing that people
Yeah.
don't necessarily see it. And then the other thing was that hey, we got to go out to dinner, and then,
Yes.
while we look for a new microwave, so we got out of
Yes.
the house, we made kind of a celebration of it,
Yes.
so it was just kind of a fun thing. So when you start looking at that type of thing in your life, it's to realize that there are elements of it that, even if it doesn't necessarily look good on the surface for you, that there's something to be grateful for in it.
Yes.
And when you find those things, it can really shift your life and really shift your focus into what that's creating for you, what that's teaching you.
Yeah.
And that can be a
And
really huge thing.
and the concepts of ease and grace and joy start to show up, these experiences, when we don't allow ourselves to get into the pity party place and, oh my goodness, now my microwave's broken and I have all these problems because of that, blah 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 blah. Going out to find a new microwave becomes a new grand adventure, right?
Yeah.
And
It's like,
and
okay, which one would
yeah,
like to show up today? Which one's on sale for me? Hey, wouldn't you like to be on sale
yes,
today? And the
right,
one thing that I did was, they couldn't get it right in stock right away. So we thought, well, we'd really like to have one because we like to use it in the mornings and that sort of thing to take less
mm-hmm.
time getting ready. So they had this one on clearance that was a countertop one that was like $60 or $50, something like that. So it's
Right,
like, okay, so we got that one.
mm-hmm.
That's sitting there so that are not rushed to getting the new one installed,
Yes,
because it's going to take both of us, and you have to move furniture, move the
right. There's a
stove out and all that. So
process.
there's a
Yeah,
process,
right.
and thank goodness we're able to do it ourselves.
Yes,
And we've done it before, so we know it's not going to be
yeah,
that big a deal. So those sort of things, when you can start letting yourself get into that space of being grateful for it and
yeah,
appreciating what it's doing for you, what it's creating in your life, more of that shows up. I mean,
yeah,
it changes the energy of your life, because when I was, I had something that didn't go really well one day this week, and I started to get into and I thought,
mm-hmm.
I don't have to live here. I can
Yes,
be somewhere else.
yes,
And when I changed the energy of what that was, it really started shifting how I was showing up that day. And
yeah,
everything really started falling into place then.
yeah,
It was no longer a barrier, what I was trying to create that day. It really started shifting, and it was like, oh, thank goodness I didn't stay in where I used to stay,
yes,
years ago, which
yes.
was that negative spot, because you tend to start spiraling down with that.
Oh, sure.
Whereas when you to stay in the gratitude, things really start falling into place, and more of
Yeah.
what you're grateful for shows up, because the universe said, oh, you like that? Well, here you go. Here's another helping.
Here's some more of what you like.
Yes,
Instead of, when we stay focused on the other things, what shows up, more of what
more
we
of that.
don't want. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So, talk to me about, how is it, what do you use to stay creatively inspired? So you're in a project now, you're trying to put together this, not trying, you are putting together a program to support your book.
Hmm.
And I know, every day showing up to do the work, when I'm in the middle of projects like that, I certainly have to muster up some extra energy sometimes. What kinds of tools or tricks, or what things do you do to keep yourself inspired?
Well, I use my gratitude journal every day.
Mm,
So I sit down and, what am I grateful for? And if nothing pops into my head, I pull out my journal and I open it to a page and I read one of the prompts that I have for people to say, oh, okay, well, what three songs really make me laugh?
mm,
Or what did I see last week that made me smile? Or who do I really appreciate who's contributed to my life?
yeah.
And I write that down. And then I like to go out and sit on my porch
Hmm.
and watch the squirrels play,
Yeah.
because we have lots of squirrels and we have lots of birds, painted buntings and blue jays and cardinals and all sorts of
Mm,
little finches and things. And then I like to sit down and do my various crafts. So I like to make jewelry. I like to sew. I like to I make these little hanging things that you put in windows. I call them sun catchers,
Uh-huh.
and just things that I enjoy doing. Things that I take different pieces of things and I put them together into something different. So I'll take a
Nice.
lot of things and I'll make them all into a mobile or something like that, where it's a lot of beads, but it's also things like seashells and driftwood and whatever it is that wants to be in that particular piece, because I always talk to the energy of the raw materials that I'm using and ask them, would you like to be in this or would you like to be in something different? And
Mm,
so it's a different way of working with things, but it
yeah.
really gives everything its own life energy when you
Isn't
put
that
them together like
beautiful?
that.
I want to pause on that for a minute because I think there are a lot of artists and creators who are listening to this who work with mixed media, if you will. And that's a really interesting concept. Will you share that again, this idea of asking the elements where they want to be?
Yeah, so when I start putting something together, I I start running my hands along the bins of beads or whatever shells or whatever I've got in the room at the time, or yarn or anything. And I ask which of them would like to be a part of this project. And I get a different energy for the things that would like to be a part of it. It's usually a,
Nice.
yeah, hey, me.
Yeah.
And so then I pull that one out and I sit it down. And so eventually I get all the ones that would like to be in it and I put them all together. And then I start asking them, how many of them would like to be in it, how many pieces of that particular type of thing, where they would like to be, in what order. I start then getting a mental image of how they would like to be arranged. A lot of times what I
Nice.
do is I have a wooden bar that I have holes drilled in them, and I have something that hangs at either one or three strands at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can have anywhere up to 7 hanging down.
Okay.
And I start asking them where they would like to be and how long it would like to be, and does it want bells on it, or does it want, something large as it's a focus, or just all sorts of things, to start seeing how they would like to show up on that, and then start putting it together. So they all have an energy of where they would like to be and
Mm.
whether they would like to be in it at all. And sometimes after I get them all together, some of them decide they don't want to be there. So then it's like, okay, that's okay. You don't have to be a part
Let's
of
just,
it.
well,
Maybe next
take
time.
you out.
And it's really, people, I'll say that to my husband and he'll say, uh-huh.
Yeah. 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 If somebody were observing and you were talking out loud in a craft corner group, I think there might be a few people looking over saying,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah, okay,
what's up with her? But I think it's really fun because as you're talking, I'm imagining myself, because I do a lot of this kind of assemblage work, and often with repurposed materials. And I haven't considered before the possibility that I could ask the element, this piece, how it would like to be treated today. Who else would it like to play with, and what would it like to become?
yeah,
Interesting. And I
yeah.
think in the, a lot of us, for me, I would describe it as I feel my way to it. I just sort of sense that the blue one needs to come now, or the purple one needs to come now, or this needs to bend a particular way. But what I love about asking the question, what's coming up for me is that as I was thinking about asking the question, I'm then waiting for a response.
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowing the process to be informed in a new way, which I think is really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that, because
You're
that's a
welcome.
really interesting inspiration. And I want to invite our listeners to consider the next time that you're sitting down to play with either mixed media or an assemblage or beads, or even sewing, if you're doing sewing with multiple kinds of fabric, and maybe not necessarily with a pattern, inviting inviting the process to be the elements to be involved in the process, I guess is what I'm trying to say, by asking them the question, what is it that they want to be?
Yeah.
Right?
And then
Yeah, very fun.
once I'm done, I always give the entire project then a blessing for
Mm,
it coming together the way it is, and for bringing to it whoever would like to have it.
nice. Nice. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
So as we get ready to close, I am one of one of my objectives for this show is to be a resource to people and to offer a places where creators can get new inspiration. So one of the questions I've taken to asking is, what favorite songs do you have that are things that inspire you? Those, because I know for me, there are days I want to create in quiet, and there are days that I want to create with music. And I find, left to my own devices, I'll go to the same playlist on a regular basis. So please share with us something new that we can enjoy and be inspired by.
Well, two of the songs that I used to listen to a lot were I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack. And it's
Mm-hmm.
all about when you get the choice to, it's the lyrics are, when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. So taking
Yes.
that possibility to dance and to really enjoy life and look for those possibilities. And another one is called Little Wonders, and it's by Rob Thomas. It's from the Disney movie, the Meet the Robinsons or something like that. And
Ah.
it's about how things can turn around. So if you start appreciating those small wonders in your life and start letting go of the things that you've been hanging on to that really aren't working for you, and they're really things like your regrets and your anger and all of that, and start letting that, they say, fall away. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really an amazing song from a little kids movie.
Yes. There's,
Which
oh,
I
I
still love the
love,
animated movies, you
oh, me
know.
too. Me too. The one thing I miss most about my daughter being grown and living in another country is that she and I can't go to Disney movies together anymore.
Yeah, you'll
So,
have to find a new playmate.
yeah. And actually I do, I'm many people know I'm a big fan of Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And so I took to taking myself on artist dates to go
Oh,
to the
well, there you
movies
go.
alone. And that serves. So tell
Well,
us again the title of that song, because I'm not familiar with it.
it's Little Wonders, and it's by Rob Thomas. And
Okay.
another thing that I really liked about it was I watched him talk about writing the song,
Mm.
and his inspiration for the song was his dog. And he said,
Oh.
he was taking his dog for a walk, and he was kind of tired and he didn't really want to do it, but the dog wanted to go. And he said, so I stopped for a minute, and he said, there's a wind blowing, and I looked down at my dog, he said, and the dog is just sitting there letting the wind blow into his
Mm.
ears, and he has his eyes closed, and he's just got his head up and his nose up in the air. And he said, and I realized how how much the dog just gets into the moment
Yeah.
and into something as small as having a breeze blow on his face, that he is just enjoying it more than he could enjoy anything else in the world in those few seconds. And he said,
Beautiful.
and that's what made me really look at, all those little wonders that you have in your life. And that's what I tried to put into, well, not tried, it's what I did put
Yes.
into my journal, was look at all those little things in your life that you may think are just there, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And realize all the energy
How
that they're
special.
creating for your life, and how special they are, how amazing they make you feel, and how they can really change your mood in a day maybe where you're down, or things aren't quite going as well as you would like them to go. And realize those little things really make your life.
Yeah. 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 And wow. Thank you for sharing that,
You're
because
welcome.
that's a beautiful place, I think, for us to bring this conversation to a close. I hope we will have the opportunity to do it again. In fact, I'm sure we will at some point in the future, because as with all of my guests, I feel like we could just continue this conversation forever, right? So,
Yeah.
because when you begin to live your life in this way, there we see so much, right? We see so many possibilities and so many opportunities, and when everything is a blessing, everything is a gift, then in if you were to take every minute of the day and there's a gift in every one of those, we could just keep talking forever and ever and ever. So and sharing the magic of it, because that's how we are seeing the world, and that's my hope for everyone who begins to tune into this conversation, to begin to have these kinds of experiences in your lives and to see them for what they are, which is the beauty of being. And and that we are in the position, we do have the opportunity as we choose to create our lives. So here we are. Create, play, live. And that is the story. So thank you, thank you, thank you to my beautiful guest, Dawn Myers, who, gosh, yeah, we will be looking forward to your course as it unfolds. Grateful that your beautiful gratitude journal is available on your website, iampurpledawn.com/gratitude. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
iampurpledawn.com/gratitude is where you can find her gratitude journal. And it's also available on Amazon. Jump over to her site, check out all that she is in the world and all the beautiful ways that she serves. And we'll continue this conversation on our next episode soon. In the meantime, you'll find all kinds of resources available here on the Create, Play, Live site. And with that, I will sign off for today and say goodbye to my guest, and with deepest gratitude for your time and attention, we will sign off and close the conversation for today. So until next time, my friends, stay curious and do create, 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 and create some more. So bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.